The nicest guys, but Jay, here's what all the riders contend with this 2.8-mile pit race circuit.
Yeah, and it's a lot of ups and downs. It's a big roller coaster is this place, and great spectator viewing between turn 2 and 3. They get to see all the action and passes going up into there. You go down into turn 5, up over the top of turn 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are all back-to-back S's that these riders have been looking for grip on all week long. Turn 14 leads down into the chicane there that they've built here to make the track a little safer. 17 and 18, we can see some shots fired down there as they come back towards that finish line.
So a good look at pit race for this race that's going to happen now. Let's take a look at the Ducati Fast Lap with Roger Hayden, who's going to give us an onboard look at pit race.
Let's look at a few spots on my Ducati V4S. You can't come to pit race and not talk about elevation. As you drive out of turn 1, up over turn 2, you can't see the short straight heading to turn 3. Then, as you're driving up out of turn 5 to 6, the other side is completely blind. Not only is the bike wanting to spin up, it's also really trying to wheelie at the top of 6. Then turn 14. The track is actually falling away as you enter, so it's really hard to see the apex. Finding good reference points for these corners will be key.
Definitely a fan favorite and a racer favorite. Can this guy get lucky number 13? Let's find out. These guys got a little crazy. They got a little crazy shooting each other. Skulls, Cam Peterson, Gagne, Sean Dillon Kelly was in the mix from Super Sport. But here is pole position based off of the results from yesterday.
Gagne, Elias, and Skoltz are going to be on that front row, and then we have Cam Peterson and Hector Barbera. Kyle Wyman gets start there in row number 2. Bradley Ward, Bobby Fong, Jake Lewis. Row 4 is going to be fun to watch. Hayden Gillen, Loris Baz, and Corey Alexander. Expect those 3 guys to try to get going forward. Wyatt Ferris, Gilbert, and Wyman. Flinders, Jason Waters, and Hunter Dunham. Then we have Dave Anthony, Jeremy Coffey. Good to see Jeremy back. He's had some problems the last couple weekends. Jeff Perk, Giannato Lee, and Rissinger there on row number 8. Then we have Ashton Yates, a guy that just on Wednesday bought the bike he's riding. Danilo Lewis there is also with Gerardo.
Oh, this just happened. What is that, a woodchuck? In the middle. Oh.
Hey, he's ready to fight.
Dismounts at
ready
10.
to go.
Yeah. All right, well.
And he's off. All right, that's good.
And we're almost getting ready to get off here. Race number 2 of Ono's Superbike. Here at Pit Race, Jake Gagne, your pole sitter. How about Tony Elias? Can he get another great start and battle the 32? Will he as a fill-in rider for Josh Aaron? Clutches are out. Gagne with a good launch. So did Tony Elias and Cam Peterson on the 45. Tony Elias going up the inside. He'll take over second spot. Cam P in third, just ahead of his countryman Matthew Skoltz.
And you heard him say he made that bike easier to ride this morning, so let's see if that makes it easier for Cam Peterson to stick with these guys early. Matthew Skoltz makes an early bid and gets by Peterson as they go into turn 3. Good to see Bobby Fong up there after some bad luck in the opening lap yesterday as well.
After a change to the motorcycle this morning for the freshly attack performance Yamaha of Tony Elias, he went a second faster than he's gone all weekend, and he's hoping he can stick with Jake Gagne and break away from the rest of the field, at least for the first couple of laps. So is the rest of this field. Great job by Bobby.
Baz right there. He went underneath Hector Barbera and ran him a little bit wide. Baz wants to get to the front. The problem is, unfortunately, Loris yesterday didn't get to run all of the laps. So whatever setups they continue to work on to refine that motorcycle this morning, that's what he's going to have to run with. It's really hard to give up that many laps to the field. But Baz, being as experienced as he is, he's already come, Greg, from the 4th row up to what I believe is 7th spot now, or 8th spot just behind Kyle Wyman.
Boy, this sector is where Jake Gagne really shines and already putting some daylight between himself and his weekend teammate, Tony Elias. Through the chicane they go for the first time. Gagne well under control. You can see, though, the urgency that Gagne has. He's so good on fresh tires. It's unbelievable.
But look what's happened. It's going to be under a second again to Tony Elias. And between Matthew Skoltz, really good first lap from the number 11 as well. Let's see what it is, Greg. It's 0.6 of a second as our leaders go over the board, or over the line, rather. Now, you see how Tony gets that bike back in? The only problem with that is that he's got to wait for those wheels to come back into line to really get going. And there's 2 spots that 24 does that to me, loses him some time. See how Gagne gets in there? Both wheels are in line. He can roll off in there. Tony's just being a little bit sideways. He might be getting in a little bit deeper at the time, but he's also got to wait for those tires to get back in line.
Yeah, just reducing that roll speed. So a 42.4 from a dead stop for Jake Gagne, as Gagne continues to show the rest of this field how to go fast in the early stages. It's all about that first 5 or 6 laps for Gagne.
And now watch. This is a spot where Tony goes into turn 7 there. Bike stays in line. Look at the roll speed he's able to carry. He was extremely fast through all this S section yesterday. This is now the Sector 2 portion of where we're at. He runs a little bit wide there. But he has probably, Greg, arguably been the guy that's kept the race closest on the first lap that we've seen all year when Gagne gets out front. So Matthew Schultz, also not known to be the best at the first 2 laps of the race. He's also showing a lot of pace. As the Sector 2 times come up on our screen, Sector 1, all these guys were the exact same. Sector 2, Gagne and Schultz are both at 34.1. So that little mistake Tony made in turn 10 there is what opened up that gap.
Tony Elias filling in for Josh Herron, who's at home recovering from COVID-19 and hoping to get back in race action for our penultimate round of the season in Jersey in about 3 weeks' time. But Tony Elias doing a great job filling in for Herron this weekend on the freshly attack performance Yamaha. A little mistake there. Hard to find the apex for Elias as he gets on the binders. Matthew Schultz looking really good. The difference in size on the same motorcycle, the Yamaha R1, omnipresent on our screen. A 40.5 for Jake Gagne as he comes across the stripe. The first flying lap of the race. For Tony Elias, a 40.8. Elias trying to keep Jake Gagne honest, but Matthew Schultz may have something to say about it, Jamie.
And one of the things that they discovered yesterday during the race is that they lost a lot more grip than what they expected based off of how practice in the 2 qualifying sessions went. So in order to adjust that, I was talking to their crew chief, Ed Sullivan. He said they made some adjustments in the electronics with the torque and the traction control, hoping just to get the grip to last for all 17 laps. He did maintain a podium finish yesterday, but they're looking to move up another step today.
Yeah, and track conditions have been changing during the course of the weekend. I mentioned in yesterday's race that we had a couple of weeks of rain here in the Pittsburgh area. We had rain on Thursday, on Friday as well, overnight. And so this track really starting to come in. Although, Jason, with the sun kind of hiding behind some of these clouds, the track temperature isn't quite as high as some of these teams had hoped it would be.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be okay. We're looking at lap times now. Again, 40.5 on that very opening lap. First 4 guys all in the 40s. And the reason I was bringing up what I was talking about when it comes to Tony is that he's such a point-and-shoot kind of rider. I think Pittsburgh lends itself for the Yamaha. The Yamaha is known for being able to roll high corner speeds and things like that. And you can see when he backs it in there into turn 1 that time, it was much straighter instead of him doing what we've seen him do in the past, where he's been able to get a bike right to the apex by holding on to that lever and diving down. And I noticed it last time into turn 3. This is a lot better. See, that bike's going to be able to roll in there. You saw that time, Greg, how he kept it out a little bit longer. The bike backs in, but it gets into line a lot quicker as he releases that lever.
The battle for second place between 24 Tony Elias and the number 11 Matthew Schultz rages on. And how about this, from 11th place, we're looking at Loris Baz, who's trying to work his way into podium contention after yesterday's disaster. Now, Jason, there was a little bit of contact between himself and Schultz. You talked about it earlier in the broadcast and the highlights. There was some drama made about that over the course of the evening. And, of course, the Westby team went to talk to Race Control. Race Control talked to Loris Baz. What's your take on the contact from yesterday?
Well, the biggest problem is that there's history between those two, and it seems like when Baz and Schultz get together, Schultz usually ends up coming out on the wrong end of that. But that said, we need to see good, tight, close racing, and really, to me, that's what yesterday was. And I know that there was some problems there with how hard he was hit. I really believe that had it been anybody else, Schultz would probably blow it off. But the problem is it kind of seems like it's Loris all the time. That said, I don't want to see Race Direction have to keep getting involved in certain things, and I think that we want to see good, hard racing. All of these guys are frustrated by the fact that there's one guy winning. Gagne gets out front, he darts away, everybody's trying to get to the front and go there as well, and there's going to be contact. Some of these tracks we go to, Greg, we know they're tight, they're hard to pass on, there's only enough room for one bike, and every now and then if those guys get side by side, you're going to see a little bit contact.
All right, Jay, as Gagne continues to lead the way here, 1.9 now as Tony Elias and Matthew Schultz going at it. Schultz just trying to keep that motorcycle at bay. going over one of the many of the crest of the hills here at Pitt Race. Now a 1:40.586, the fastest lap of the race by Gagne in lap 2. The lap record here was Cameron Beaubier last year at a 1:40.550. So just 36 thousandths of a second off of that track record is Jake Gagne. But now without somebody pushing him, I think that lap record might be safe.
And I think Matthew has pace here. I really do. I think that if he can get by Tony Elias here, that he might be able to at least kind of keep that gap a little bit closer. You can still see Gagne in our shot. Matthew's doing everything he can as he has a look.
Yep.
There it is. That's the pass that he needed to make. And now I think that you'll see Matthew get his head down. I believe you'll also see him get into the very low 41s, maybe even duck back into the high 40s, because you can see that there's a little bit of a gap. Now, Tony, we know what he'll do. He'll dig in, but keep in mind, Bobby Fong has moved himself past Cam Peterson too, and the 50 is another one of those guys that in the middle parts of these races just kind of grinds those laps out, and he'll find himself in this podium contention as well as the race wanes on.
Tony Elias, up over the curb as you got to maintain it. So Elias with a bit of a mistake there, Hannah.
Yeah, Greg, I spoke to Tony this morning, and he said yesterday, the theme of the weekend for all the riders really has been about refining the setup to get more rear grip. And in warm-up, they made some big changes to the rear of that motorcycle for more grip on the gas, and it also improved grip on the edge of the tire, so he felt a lot better over yesterday. He wasn't expecting a podium yesterday, but he settled into a really good pace on his own. But Tony Elias is never one to shy away from a battle, so this race could get interesting here as the laps carry on.
Yeah, and Elias with a 40.8, his fastest lap of the race so far. And now, though, with that jumping, that motocross style of the chicane, he's falling into the clutches of Sunday Fong. This guy, Bobby Fong, M4X Star Suzuki, just shows up on Sunday and just starts to put the hammer down.
And was it a brake lever adjuster yesterday that he saw?
That's correct.
Kind of loose?
Aftermarket part.
Okay, so on the warm-up lap, he saw that he pulled in, he kind of missed start, so he started last. But we know how gutsy of a rider Bobby Fong is. But I really like what I'm seeing right now out of Matthew Schultz. That last lap was 41.8, but let's see now that he gets that first real clear lap. Our leader's at a 41.3. And keep in mind, Matthew had to get by. It was a half second slower, but he had to get by Tony to do that time. Baz has now made his way through on Cam Peterson as well. So now he's going to have those three guys ahead of him as markers to see if he can close that gap down.
There's a good look at Jake Gagne as he's controlling the pace of this race again. Oh, and he is just having some fun.
Yeah.
He just opened up the throttle and just spun it up a little sideways. But is Matthew Schultz starting to catch him on the Westby Racing Yamaha R1? It has been a lot of Yamaha wins this season. I believe they've swept the podium, Jason, 3 times. So looking for another Suzuki on the podium from Bobby Fong. And there's so much time left in this race, and there's so much tire wear as well. As we've talked about, the track surface keeps changing. But Schultz right now doing a great job to hang on a second.
And it's as I expected. He goes 41.4, so he's in that lower 41 bracket. 41.6 for Gagne. Very rarely after 6 laps have we said that somebody actually closed the gap to Gagne. So we'll see if Matthew can keep going. I was lucky enough to talk a little bit to Chuck Cicchetto of the Westby team on Friday, and they were really happy with how the bike rolled out and the pace that Matthew showed on our first day here. And right now it looks like they've probably made things a little bit better, but Tony's doing what Tony does. He's continuing to get used to this motorcycle and go along with these guys as he goes 41.5, Bobby Fong 41.4. These guys are all solidly in the 41s, but the neat thing is that Gagne didn't really get away that much that lap.
In talking with Tony Elias earlier today, we were talking about race pace and what he expected, and he said, look, the first couple laps are going to be 40s. Then we're going to settle into these 41s, kind of mid to highs, and then by the end of the race, we're probably going to be running 42 lows. So Tony was really able to put into context how he's going to pace himself in this race. Now, the other question was, how hard is Tony Elias going to push? Jason, it's a guest ride, right? Like, this is a fill-in ride for Josh Herrin. It's Josh Herrin's motorcycle. Does Tony Elias let it all hang out and possibly put this motorcycle and himself at risk just to hold on to a podium? Well, he said, look, I've had conversations with Yamaha all the way from if I'm close to Jake Gagne at the end of the race to a podium, what do I do? He didn't tell me what it is, but he's got a plan in his head as to what he's able to risk and what not. either way, what Tony Elias is doing this weekend is impressive. Off the couch to a podium and now battling for a second.
Yep, and he's got Bobby Fong having a look here. And Tony was a little bit offline there in turn one. And really what this ride goes back to is that Tony's going to come here and try to win the race, do the best he can. There's one guy he cannot touch on the racetrack. There's one guy that he can't, when I say touch, I mean run into, and that is his teammate Jake Gagne. He's going to know that already. But his job at that point is just to get the best result that he can.
And Bobby Fong is trying to take that best result away, isn't he, Jamie?
And for the last two, Fong has had the fastest lap time out there on the racetrack right now, and that was really a point of contention yesterday. You mentioned that brake lever problem that they had. He had to bring it to pit lane. They were able to muster up an 8th place finish, which is where they started the race today, already racing up into the 4th. And this morning in the warm-up, they tried a couple of things just to get a little more longevity out of those tires, but it was inclusive. They knew they had the pace for their setup from race 1 yesterday, and it seems to be paying off today.
Yeah, additionally, in talking to Chris Ulrich about Bobby Fong, Jason, you know, the opportunity for a rider, after something like that happens, a brake adjuster, you got to come in, your race is ruined. The expectation is, how is the rider going to come in after the race is over? Are they going to be bummed? Are they going to be angry? What the deal was? And Chris said, Bobby Fong came in and said, we did some good laps today. We got some good data. I'm so excited to race tomorrow. And so they knew his head was in the right space as they head off to the pillows last night.
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing is, as a rider, the last thing you want to have any problems with or any thoughts about is brakes, okay? So the fact that he was able to get back out there, run those laps, find himself in that top 10, which also made it easier for him as a start today. He didn't have to go back to that 4th row. He got to start on that 3rd row today. When you start to look at it, they pulled some positives from a negative situation, and he's just had some bad luck this year, as the team with this number 50 bike as well. So this is really nice to see them putting it down right now. Bobby's right there behind Tony. You saw him a lap ago. He took a look down in the S section from turn 7 to turn 9, exactly where Matthew was able to get by Tony. Bobby took a shot at the same spot. So they're getting close to that place now, Greg. 2 corners from now, we'll see if Bobby tries to put that same pass on Tony that Matthew Schultz did just a few laps earlier. So they're going to swing it right here, get back to the left. If Tony opens up this next left at all, Bobby Fong wants to straight line this, but he's not quite close enough.
Yeah, it looks like the changes that have been made to the Fresh and Lean Attack Performance Yamaha of Tony Elias about getting better drive, getting that tire to grip into the asphalt on acceleration seems to be working. Where Tony struggled a little bit with the tire feeling like it's sitting on top of the asphalt and not really digging in. So Richard Stamboli, really put his head down and said, okay, let's go ahead and make some subtle changes that are going to help you out, and they seem to be working.
One of the things that I always hear you talking about is pit boards and how important they are to riders, as it's our only communication. And I was watching the last few laps here, and the lap times were fairly consistent with what Matthew Schultz and Jake Gagne were doing. Both riders were doing 41s. Jake Gagne now just dropped back into the 40s, 40.7. He didn't see that gap getting any bigger at the pace he was going, so he automatically just drops the pace back down to 40.7. And he probably saw now when he comes across the board, he's going to see that he's got +3, +3.5 as he drops back into the 41s here. But just a lap ago, Greg, he went from doing a 41.3 back to the 40.7. So it kind of shows you what the 32 out front has in reserve if he needs it.
Yeah, he is just on another planet. Tony Elias looks like he's closed the gap slightly to Matthew Schultz. As Schultz now comes into clearer view for Tony Elias, is Schultz starting to have some tire issues? Is the pace really the same for Schultz? 41.7 to 41.6 last time by. It just kind of visually looks like it, Jay, but on our timing screens, it looks all the same.
There are just places where I think that, one's better than the other, and I think that that's what we're seeing. And there's going to be spots like this. Tony's actually really fast through these S's. This is where we saw Matthew get by him. But there's places where it seems like Tony can close that gap, and then he loses the gap in other spots. So, when they came across the line last time, the difference between the two was 0.6 of a second. And then when they got up to turn 3 this time, it looked like it was about 0.3, didn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did. Battle for second place, really, we're looking at as Matthew Schultz on the Westby Racing Yamaha leads this duo of Tony Elias, 24, Fresh and Lean Attack Performance Yamaha, Bobby Fong, who's making an aggressive move into the chicane. Wow. And Bobby with his hand in the air just to let Tony know, hey, but Tony answers right back as Tony does. Oh, Fong had a bit of a moment there. Tony might have tried to park him. So a little pass and pass back action. by Bobby Fong, M4X Star Suzuki. Things are starting to get a little chippy for that final spot on the podium.
Yeah, well, both these guys are fighting, and both these guys want this result. Tony would love to leave here with a couple of podiums, and after what Bobby went through yesterday, he's just looking for a podium. And you can see their lines are significantly different. Wow. Bobby just rode around the outside of him going up over the top of that rise. Tony looked like he was going to have position, but Bobby Fong makes that pass.
Oh, he's so
I don't know
deep.
if I've seen anybody do that before.
That was unreal by Bobby Fong. That's how urgent it is for Fong as he sees second place so close. He doesn't want to let Schultz get away.
That's a big commitment because when you're coming up over the top of that hill on a superbike, it's fourth gear, flat out going up over the top of that thing, and you can't see the other side, but you know the grass is over there. And again, we heard in the Ducati Fast Lap with Raj, finding good markers around this place is everything, and Bobby's really confident going up over the top of that rise.
So M4X Star Suzuki's Bobby Fong has worked his way into third place, starting to put a little daylight between himself and Tony Elias. Especially coming out of the corner, it seems to be where Tony might be struggling ever so slightly to maintain that acceleration of the Suzuki. Jay, left part of your screen.
Yeah, you can see Bobby makes this pass and makes this commitment really, really late to get himself in there, and he gets the bike turned. I cannot tell you how hard it is to get in there like that. It almost looks like he just, it looks like he just kind of waved off, like, sorry. Yeah, it's going to be one of those, sorry, it was a little bit late there. But Tony had already cut it back up underneath him. But this pass here is incredible because you can see how close he gets to the grass.
Running out of racetrack.
And that's going to be wide open. If that bike gets a little bit out of shape or anything, you saw what happened to Travis Wyman in that area yesterday. That's the same area. Bobby Fong is able to carry that roll speed up over the top of that hill and get through. And now he's trying to close this gap down to Matthew Schultz.
And that Suzuki looks like it is just dialed in right now. It's Fong enjoying the ride, and this is what happens with Bobby Fong on Sunday. Seems like they get some things sorted out. Now back to Loris Baz.
Yeah, and he got by Cam Peterson a few laps ago. It looked like he was going to pull away. But these guys, 43.3, 43.4 that time for Cam. So these guys are now kind of running the same pace. The guys out in front of them are what are they, Greg? 6 seconds up the road. So they're 12 seconds behind the leader. And Cam's going to try to get back on the back of Baz here and do something with him in the closing stages of the race.
The Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York entrant of Loris Baz doing a good job right now, Hannah.
He is, Greg. Starting from 11th is not ideal from him after not finishing yesterday's race. The rules state that he has to start from further back on the grid. So making up all those spots is really impressive, running 5th right now. But ultimately, he knows once he's able to kind of charge through that pack, Jake has already set sail on the rest of the field. And talking to him about getting the bike situated, he tried a different fork setting here this weekend that he liked at Brainerd. So he thinks it'll pay off for the race, and hopefully it'll help him keep Cameron Peterson at bay. Ultimately, Loris is still looking for that elusive win this season, and he's willing to ride to the limit every single race weekend to get that. If crashing is the consequence of that, then he feels fine with that result as long as he knows he gave it his all.
And that makes a lot of sense when you're not racing for the championship, as Baz is to let it all hang out. Plus, you know, to add to that, Jason, Loris Baz had a lot of eyes on him when he came to MotoAmerica, and there was a lot of expectation put on his shoulders. With this motorcycle, the fact that it comes directly from Bologna, directly from the factory, and the crew that they have, a great crew underneath that canopy, I think a lot of expectations were on the shoulders of Baz.
And a world-class rider. I mean, he is absolutely a world-class rider. Now we have Hector Barbera, who's been closed up. Kyle Wyman here. Kyle Wyman's closed that gap back down. I've been watching this out my window. At one time, Kyle was out in front of Barbera. Barbera got by him, pulled away from him, and now Kyle's just kind of gritting his teeth and trying to get back on the back of this BMW, and he does it again, Greg, going up over that same rise that we saw his brother get out of shape on yesterday. Kyle Wyman makes that pass. 42.2 fastest lap for Kyle Wyman in this race. They're operating now in the low 44s, both of these guys. So, you know, Kyle Wyman coming back from injury. This is his first race back with us in, 4 rounds, I believe. You know, coming back from a pretty serious elbow injury.
On the Panera-bred Ducati, battling it out with the Scheibe Racing BMW. And Kyle Wyman, of course, doing a great job today. And Jamie, what do you have on Kyle?
Well, you mentioned that injury, Jay, and one of the things that he's struggled with is just the strength of that left arm, and he said that today he's much more sore than what he was yesterday. It just progressively has gotten worse as the weekend has moved on, so he just needed to get through these 17 laps. You know, the best way to train is to be out on the racetrack, so that was really what he was looking to do. He's feeling the frustrations on board that Ducati. He said, you know, we're always trying to find something. We're always looking. Everything we try, it doesn't seem to work, and it's always problems in the chassis and in their setups, but they're working through it as a team, and it's making them stronger, so they really needed these laps just to work through some of their issues.
Yeah, with about 3.5 weeks off until we go to New Jersey Motorsports Park for Kyle Wyman, he's going to really enjoy that and let that elbow rest up. So a yeoman's effort from Wyman to be back in the saddle, battling it out for 7th place. It's Gagne, Skoltz, Fong, Tony Elias in 4th, Loris Baz and Cam Peterson. Wyman has gotten around Hector Barbera, Jake Lewis, who we heard from earlier, in 9th place, with Hayden Gillum, who's back in action this weekend in MotoAmerica, racing Stock 1000 and Superbike Cup, in 10th over Travis Wyman, Corey Alexander, Andrew Lee, Danilo Lewis, and Max Flinders, a fan favorite, in 15th. So, Jay, the laps are winding down as we take a look at Wyman. You know, Wyman and his Panera Bread sponsorship able to test earlier this season here at Pit Race and was doing 42s, has done a 42-2. But back up front we go to this rider who's now just 1 second off of his fastest lap of the race, controlling the pace out front. Yesterday around this time, Jason, it was about 8.5 second lead for Jake Gagne. Now it's 4.8, so definitely the field faster today than yesterday. But what are you seeing from Gagne's riding?
Well, we haven't got to see him very much. So, but what you can tell is it just always looks like he's got a little in reserve. He looks pretty happy with this motorcycle again. And, you know, the bike just doesn't do a lot of things that it was doing last year when he was doing some stuff to the motorcycle to make it act the way it was. I think, again, going back, I hate to sound like a broken record, but he learned a lot dealing with Cameron Beaubier and as a teammate, seeing some of the things that he did. And that's what you're seeing now. And he's so comfortable on this bike from the time they roll it out of the trailer. He's doing race laps in first practice Friday. He's going out and doing race distances, Greg. I mean, he's staying out there for 12, 14 laps in his first runs.
An impressive season, huh, Hannah?
Yeah, Greg, all around from Jake Gagne, no complaints, no really significant changes to the bike. And Jamie and I were over there laughing with him earlier that sometimes no news is good news. But despite all of Jake's success, the way that you guys were just mentioning, he's still out there working hard. He's putting in the work. He still wants to push to go faster and just continue to grow throughout the remainder of this season, win or lose.
Yeah, and you know, it really, if you look at Jake's body language, the way he rides the bike, as he gets held up a little bit in lap traffic, it's going to be no big deal. Patiently getting around Joe Giannotto is Jake Gagne. But, you know, Jason, you look at the way he's really embraced the superbike riding style, the way he gets it up on the meat of the tire, and the way he's using his body to express how the throttle is open and how the throttle closed. It's a marked difference from last year. I think looking at Jake Gagne last year, the movement of the motorcycle was the obvious thing, but there's so many subtle things that a lot of fans don't see that are improved for this year.
Well, I think, you know, in his admission, I almost feel like he was overriding the motorcycle last year instead of letting the team and things kind of work better for him as far as getting the bike set up. And one of the things he mentioned to me at COTA at our test at the beginning of the season, he's like, I've got to relax on the bike more. I've got to do less almost. And what it's done is it's just calmed the whole thing down. This guy comes to the races now just smile. I see him in the airport all the time. He's always got a smile on his face. He's always happy to be coming here. And he doesn't really have any worries. He knows he's going to come here and get on with a great team on a good bike and do the business. And there's right now, there's nobody that can really get near him.
No one can get near him. 5.1 seconds, the lead even through traffic over Matthew Skoltz, who's got a half a second over Bobby Fong. Tony Elias has settled into 4th place, kind of lonely for him. He's got 5 seconds up the road to Fong and Loris Baz.
I think the fact that these guys can still see him is pretty solid, like you were mentioning earlier. It's 5.1, 41.9 that time for Gagne, 42.1s for these two guys chasing him down, Skoltz and Bobby Fong. So it kind of goes to show that these guys can still see him, Greg. It's 5 seconds. But I just wonder, you know, again, how much of that is being controlled by Gagne himself.
Battle for 2nd and 3rd. Bobby Fong working his way through this field, worked his way onto the bottom step of the podium, trying to climb one up on Matthew Skoltz. The question is, with about a lap and a half to go in this Hono Superbike race, is Bobby Fong pacing himself currently, or is this all he's got? You look at those lap times, 42.1s, just like what I was talking about with Tony Elias and how this race was going to play out in the latter stages. But Jake Gagne still 41.9 last time by. Just enjoying himself.
See how good the bike looks just coming out of there.
Yeah.
Everything's in line. You can hear the TC working as we get the white flag. I mean, the bike is just, it's hooked up, and it's just going forward all of the time. And these are the spots where the braking areas come in, where you saw a lot more movement from the motorcycle last year. And that's been cut in half, it seems to me, just sitting here from where I'm watching. You see him come up here into turn 3, Greg. See, the bike last year, we had so much more movement. Here's the battle for second.
So Bobby Fong, it's go time now if he can close the gap on Matthew Schultz. Schultz has got to continue with the development of his riding style. We've showcased it a couple times where Schultz is trying to smooth himself out. Now, Jay, looking at Gagne and talking about the success that he's on, I was in a debrief on Friday with he and his crew chief, and the debrief lasted about 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
It was literally like, I have seen some debriefs back in the Ben Bostrom days where they would be there for an hour, hour and a half.
Yep.
And it was the direct communication as to what the issue was, what the solution was, and do you want to try it? And Gagne was so open to whatever his crew chief had to say. Yeah, okay, I think that'll work. No, I'm not sure that'll work. And the way that the two communicated, the lack of ego in that communication is part of why we're seeing the success of Jake Gagne. The talent's always been there.
John Cornwell was an amazing rider back in his day as well, so he can relate a little bit to what riders talk and how they feel, and we've seen that through even like Pierre Riba doing crew chiefing for Johnny Ray, Andrew Pitts over there crew chiefing now. So riders that knew how to ride and were so good at communicating with their crew, now they make great crew chiefs themselves.
And it is paying off for Jake Gagne and the Fresh and Lean Attack Performance Yamaha team, as Gagne to the fans will come onto the front straightaway. How do you like lucky number 13 for Jake Gagne? His 13th win of the season and 13th win in a row. And second place will go to Matthew Schultz, Westby Racing Yamaha. 5.7 seconds. They basically halved the distance between the race win yesterday. Bobby Fong in third place, just ahead of Tony Elias. So Fong putting a stop to the Yamaha sweep here at Pit Race. Riders continuing to come across. That was Gianotto and Jeffrey Perk.
And
Barbara gotten around Kyle Wyman. The dash to the flag for another couple championship points. And Barbara will hold on to 7th place behind Cameron Peterson. Baz in 5th. Here's your race pace. We talked about it. Look at that. Lap 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we had a couple.
Lap 8, though, I feel like where he kind of broke guys, because they could see they were kind of keeping that distance. You see, he went from a 41.4 to a 40.7, just to say, hey, hold on a minute. I got to just see one more second here on my board when I come back by.
All right, so Jake Gagne with his 13th. We'll talk to him when we return to Pit Race. We're witnessing is greatness in action. Boy, we thought what Cameron Beaubier did last year was incredible, but Gagne continues to set new records here in Hono Superbike in MotoAmerica on his way to his podium celebration. Let's take a look at these results. 5.7 seconds the margin of victory. Bobby Fong, what a hard-fought third-place finish. Breaking Tony Elias's heart, but still a great weekend from Tony and Loris Baz from 11th to 5th. So let's get right down the winner's circle and hear from our winner.
Greg, the streak continues for Jake Gagne. As you mentioned, 13 in a row, lucky number 13. Jake, another outstanding weekend for you. Is there anything that you would have liked to do differently or better?
I mean, I don't know. You know, after yesterday, I knew everybody would be on it today. They'd be chasing me down even more, and everybody stepped it up today. You know, even us, we made a couple improvements to this bike, but again, I say it every time, hats off to this Fresh and Lean Attack Yamaha. This whole crew's working their butts off, and no matter what, we want to go faster, and these boys keep chasing us, and we got no choice but to keep going. And again, hats off to the fans. It's great. We all love this track. This makes for some great racing, and thanks to all the fans watching at home. Happy birthday, Dad. He's Friday the 13th the other day, so for 13 wins, that's pretty amazing. It's surreal. A ride home. It's Alpine Stars, Fresh and Lean. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll be back in a couple weeks.
Congrats, Jake. Thanks. Let's get over to Jamie with who I'm sure is a very happy second-place finisher.
For Matthew Schultz, Hannah, it is his career best season so far. Now 10 podium finishes, able to move up one more step today from third to second. Matthew, you made changes overnight. It gave you the confidence to make that pass on Tony Elias. When you're gelling so well together as a team, what confidence does that give you as the rider?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt from the opening couple of laps that I had something on Tony, but he's really hard to get past. You know, he really gets out of the corner as well. And he breaks deep too, you know, so it was a difficult couple of laps to try to get past him. Once I did, I tried to put some heaters down, but kind of got to the halfway point. And I managed to close in on Jake 1 or 2 laps, but then he saw that and he just stepped it up. You know, Jake's on a different level right now, but I feel like we're getting better, like we're closing the gap to him slightly. We just have to carry on working on the drive by the corners a little bit more. And yeah, next up we go to Jersey and to Barbie, Jersey and Barber, which are 2 of my favorite tracks. So I'm really looking forward to that.
More good things to come for Matthew Schultz, our second place finisher. Hannah?
Jamie, for Bobby Fong, after some tough luck yesterday, he made his way from 26th to 8th in the field. Today, he made his way straight to the podium. How were you able to kind of overcome yesterday and be here today for this kind of success?
You know, it's definitely been a roller coaster of a year, but you know, I've fought through worse challenges before, so we just kept our head held high and we just kept charging. I felt like I had something at the end, but I got a little too handsy with the throttle the last 2 laps and was just kind of spinning in one place. But man, these guys rode awesome and kept me honest, and it was a good race with Tony and the whole group of us for a while. So I'm happy to be back up here, and my M4S car Suzuki is handling good again.
Always great to see a smile on Bobby Fong's face, guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Good to see him back in the podium after a 3-race win season last year. So looking for the first one. We'll be back to Pit Race in a moment.